Welcome to the Income Podcast. Please be sure to join the Passive Income Posse by clicking that subscribe button below. Super excited for today's episode. Joining me is Cody. Cody, please go ahead and give yourself an introduction.
Well, what's going on, Dave? Thanks for having me on the podcast. Another passive income lover like myself. Cody Berman. I'll give you the quick rundown, then we can dive into whatever area you think is going to be most exciting for people. Was going on the corporate banking path. I kind of stumbled into the financial independence, retire early, the FIRE movement. That led me astray on all these different side hustles and discovering passive income and compound interest and realizing that I didn't have to work forever, that I could, build these systems, I could build these passive income streams that would then give me the option to retire from my job or just pursue whatever passions that I saw fit. So I started like really going down that path, like went all in on entrepreneurship, quit my corporate job. Within 3 years from quitting that corporate job, I reached financial independence from both the 4% rule and from the what I call cash flow FI, like from the passive income from my real estate, from my digital products, and all the things that I was doing. And man, it's been a wild journey, but I've learned a lot. I've failed a lot. I'm definitely not like some guy who just starts something and it works out every time. I probably have a graveyard of 30 plus side hustles and some things that I thought would be like the best passive income sources ever that didn't pan out. But yeah, here I am today. I hit FI at 25. I'm currently 27 and just
Wow.
continuing to stack those passive income streams.
Wow, that's amazing. So young. And yeah, the failures, right? We've all had them, and those failures are ultimately what leads to successes because you learn from the failures, you learn what doesn't work, and you tweak and you tweak and you figure out what does work. So hats off to you for, like you said, 30, probably more, right? I'm
A
guessing
lot.
probably more than 30
Yeah.
that failed, that are in the graveyard, buried deep somewhere 6 feet under.
Yeah, it was a lot of failures. But the ones that I found the most interesting and the most lucrative, we can jump into either of these in depth today, was digital products. So I kind of started selling like printables and digital downloads on Etsy, and then that transformed into ebooks. And then I started getting into courses later on, and then real estate. I know I get a lot of pushback on that. Like it's not 100% passive, but it's like, well, we spend like 4 to 5 hours a month managing our properties, and
It's
just the
it's
cash
very
flow
it's
from our
some it's
exactly.
yeah, it's pretty passive compared to a 40-hour a week job, right?
Exactly. I like to tell people passive income is a spectrum. It's not a 0 or a 1. It's like if this is, takes 5% of the time of a full-time job but makes the same amount of money, that's passive enough for me.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I've had some great discussions with Lauren at Adulting is Easy about that exact same topic where she's like, "No, it's not 110% passive, but like you just said, I work 4 hours a month at it, and so that's passive enough for me."
Passive enough for me. Lauren's a friend of mine as well. That's cool. You guys are friends.
Yeah, she's been on here at least once, maybe twice, and I've been on her podcast as well. So shout out to Lauren at Adulting is Easy. Um, yeah, let's talk about those digital products and I guess kind of what got you started, and then maybe we'll dive back into the real estate after that.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, digital products, it kind of all started on Etsy for me. So, I have a friend, now business partner. Her name's Julie Berninger. And the reason we knew each other, actually, we both had podcasts in the financial independent space. I have the Financial Independent Show. She had a podcast called Fire Drill. And I was just like in full collaboration mode. Like I was just doing a million things at once. I was 22. I had unlimited energy. I was trying so many side hustles. And I just hit her up and she told me, she's like, yeah, I'm selling these things called printables on Etsy. And last year, I think she had made 6 grand in that first year. And she was super busy. She was working full time at Amazon, but she had spent 50 hours basically putting together this Etsy shop, getting I think a couple dozen products in there. And she had made like 6 grand from that shop. She's like, and I'm doing quick math in my head. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
that's $120 an hour. And she's still making money on this side hustle, like now, even though she's not working on the products. And little old me at the time, I'm like driving or delivering Uber Eats on a bicycle. I'm like buffing boats. I'm doing all these random side hustles just to like try to make money. I'm like, okay, this digital product thing sounds a lot easier than what I'm doing. It sounds pretty passive. So I gave it a shot. I didn't have much of a creative background or anything. So if people are listening to this and saying, oh, I'm not even going to give this a shot because I'm not good at graphic design. Don't worry, neither was I. I was like a 1 or a 2 out of 10 skill level. But I just started creating products. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand keyword research or SEO or buyer search intent or all the fancy stuff that I focus on now at the time. But I just started making stuff. I started creating like fun games using the free program called Canva. You're probably familiar as a content creator yourself, Dave. It's an
Yep.
awesome program. It's free. People can check it out right now as they're listening or later on, canva.com. But I just started making like random stuff for free. I started making games. Then I started making like invitations, planners, calendars. When I really started to see success, though, this was kind of like my light bulb moment, my aha moment. So I started in October, I think it was 2018, October 2018, opened my shop. It was crickets for the first couple of months, quite honestly. Like, I don't even
Yeah,
know
yeah.
why I persisted and kept going with it. I was horrible and none of my stuff was selling. But
Almost
I
ended
started
up
like,
in the graveyard with all those other side hustles.
exactly, exactly. I always like to say, like, I'm standing on top of a mountain of failures. That's why I'm at where I'm at today. There's no way that
Yeah.
I could get here without all of those graveyard ideas and businesses. But so I created a bunch of stuff for Valentine's Day for Etsy. So I like created all this stuff in December and January, knowing that like this huge commercial holiday was coming up. Like a ton of Etsy buyers is like 90% women. So Christmas is huge. Valentine's Day is huge. Where people are buying stuff for their significant other. I ended up making like 20 different products for Valentine's Day. I had like love coupons. I had like these things where it was like a basically just like a Valentine's Day card, but you could like swap in like your pictures of you and your significant other. You could do like your pets. I had all this stuff. And I just had a couple of these products take off. And I was on a ski trip in Lake Tahoe, actually. So this was like the first time I was like legitimately experiencing like passive income where you're not working and dollars are rolling in.
Right.
And so I'm on the ski lift and I have my phone on loud, like sound on because I was expecting a call. And I kept getting the cha-ching sound, which if you have any Etsy sellers listening, that is the sound of making a sale. So we go in for lunch. This is on like February 9th, maybe. So like 5 days before Valentine's Day. And I had made like almost $100 from a handful of these designs. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, this ski day's paid for.
Almost enough to afford that lift ticket at Lake
Exactly.
Tahoe.
I'm like, if the day keeps going as it's going, like I'm gonna be able to, recoup my $180 lift ticket for Lake Tahoe. But by the end of that week, man, it was $718 that week, and I wasn't working. I don't even know if I brought my laptop on that trip. It was just like
Wow.
I responded to a couple customer service messages, like someone didn't know how to download or someone was having an issue on Etsy. But by the end of the week, $718, most like 99% passive income because again I did respond to a couple of the messages, the customer
Yeah.
service messages on Etsy. But that was like my first kind of big foray into passive income with digital products, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's an amazing story, an amazing start, and hats off again to you for the perseverance of just keeping at it with all those other the failed, like we've all been there with the failed ideas. We've all had them, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, amazing start, and then I guess maybe just take us through that journey from Lake Tahoe and that first $700, and just where did it go from there?
Well, I had finally kind of found my buzz. It was like the seasonal products thing. So for the rest of that calendar year, I was just like hammering digital like seasonal products. So and I
Easter
was like a
coming
month
up
ahead of the
next,
trends.
basically.
Exactly. So it was like I had all the February stuff. I had all the Valentine's Day stuff. I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, then I created a bunch of St. Patrick's Day stuff. I created a bunch of like Super Bowl stuff because that was happening in February. Then I like created stuff for April. Like I had a bunch of Easter printables and digital downloads do really, really well. Then like I'm looking into the next couple months. I'm like, okay, Mother's Day, Father's Day, graduation, and I just went through the entire year. Like this the first year that I was on Etsy is honestly the most time I spent on Etsy by a huge margin. But I still
Yeah,
have products that I made from 2018, 2019 that sell to this day because I just spent an entire calendar year. And now like it's cyclical, but like obviously I'm not having much Halloween sales in April, but like when Halloween rolls around, now I have like this suite of digital products in my Etsy shop that continues to make me sales, like different games, different signs that people can print out, different there's so many different things that you can once you kind of dive into this digital realm, like even if you look around the room that you're in right now, whether you're listening to this at the gym or you're at home, like you're probably going to see some type of a printable, or if you're on your computer, some type of a digital product that maybe you use in your own life that you could then kind of templatize and sell. There's just like an unlimited number of digital product ideas out there. But yeah, man, that was kind of like the first year, and did really, really well with the seasonal stuff and then continued that trend. And I've still been doing that to this day, adding products. So now I kind of have a team. It was all me at the beginning. Now I have like a couple of graphic designers to work for me. I'm just like I'm the mastermind doing like the SEO and keyword research, and I think of all the product ideas. But now we kind of got a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you said something there too. I kind of want to, tie this in and bring it around. That first year was not passive income. That first year was a lot of work, a lot of like, you know, nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and just creating these things and getting them out there. But you kept going, and now you just said it. 5, 6 years later, you're still making sales from these original products from 2018. So that's amazing, and that's definitely passive income, right? Where it's like something from that I did 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm still making money from it.
Absolutely, yeah, the only part that's not passive is the customer service stuff, which I, like, calculated it out because I had this one post, and actually I had, like, a CNBC article go, like, semi-viral, and I had all these hate comments, you get on any of these, like, mainstream media channels,
That means you're doing something right
that means
when
you're
you
doing
when
something
once you
right.
get the hate comments, right?
Exactly. But I did the actual ratio of, like, sales to messages, and 1 in 20 people message me. So I like to say it's 95% passive income. And when someone does message me, it's usually as simple as, like, and I even have, like, they're called saved replies in Etsy. So I just, like, click how to download your files, saved reply. It takes, like, literally 10 seconds, and,
Right.
then the customer's on their way, and it usually that's, like, most of the messages I get. So I like to say it's, like, 95 to, 99% passive income. But, yeah, it's like, I created this in 2018, and it's still making me sales today. That's passive enough for me.
Yeah, that's still extremely passive. Still extremely passive. And then so obviously, off the top, we were talking about real estate and Lauren, adulting is easy, and you don't just you can't just sell something for $1 on Etsy and then go and buy 100 or $300,000 properties. So obviously there's kind of some sort of story or transition there where sales obviously skyrocketed to the point where you were able to invest into real estate.
So Etsy sales were going really, really well. I was still freelancing at this time, so I was like making some money. I was doing like freelance podcast editing and video editing, and I was like running some email marketing campaigns and doing affiliate marketing for people. Like I said, I was doing a lot of stuff, Dave.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like doing whatever I could to make money. So, but I was also extremely frugal. I think that's a key piece, and I want people to take note of that. I was
Sure.
living on like $1,000 to $1,200 a month total. That is with
Wow.
housing. With I was sharing a room in
This is
Boston.
like I didn't pay rent. I lived in a tent.
No, and it wasn't even like living at home. That's what a lot of people say, or a lot of people ask. So there was a 3 bedroom in Boston. A couple of my buddies had rented. It was $2,700 total. I split a room. So the room itself was 900. I split that. My rent was 450. I was driving a paid off car, so I just had insurance and gas, and I was
So
in
you shared
Boston.
a room in a shared house?
I shared a room in a shared house. I was doing what I had to do.
Yeah.
Driving a paid off car, so just gas and insurance, which I wasn't really driving much. I was in Boston. Then,
Was it a
grocery money.
Corolla?
Yeah, it was actually a truck, believe it or not. It was a truck. So not like the most in the Fi community, people kind of, poo-poo trucks, but I love my truck, Nissan Frontier 2015. It's all paid off, and I love it. It's still running to this day. I still drive that car.
Yeah.
Um, but then it was like grocery money, going out money, like restaurants and bars, but I was still pretty frugal. Like I still went out. It wasn't like I was a hermit, but I was just intentional with what I spent. And like I said, it was like $1,000 to $1,200. And that was probably for like 2 or 3 years. I kept up those spending levels. And the reason I'm
Yeah.
mentioning this though is because I was making, $5,000 a month and then $10,000 a month from all my side hustle stuff, but I'm spending 1,000 to 1,200. So like within a couple of years, I had saved up like a couple $100,000, which is
Wow.
kind of crazy. Like a bit, like looking at the income I was making, it's not like I was making $500,000 a year and I saved up 200K. Like I was making, 100K, and then the next year after that, I made like close to 200K. But those expenses were still like $1,200 a month. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what gave me the capital to start investing into things like real estate and like also putting a lot of money into the stock market, index funds as well.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad you mentioned the stock market because I do wanna get into that as well. But I guess, just the real estate investing journey, where are you at with that? Sort of how many properties do you have now? Do you have like a primary residence that you own now and then have other rentals? And do you foresee yourself buying more rental properties in the future?
Yeah, so what's been key for me is just keeping the big two, which is housing and transportation, costs as low as possible. I just mentioned I'm still driving the same 2015 Nissan Frontier, and I'm actually in a kind of
That's
a
a brand new truck, man.
hey, pretty much, right?
Like, have you seen any of my tweets of my
Yeah.
2001 F-250, and, like, I'm like, "She's 21 years old
And
enough
she's
to
still
have fun in
kicking.
Vegas, right?"
Exactly. Oh, man. But yeah, so my truck's still kicking. I'm gonna keep it for as long as I can because it's still running great, and I'm sure you love your truck as well.
Yeah, I
It's a
do.
little bit older than mine. But I'm actually in kind of like a weird hybrid house hack type of situation right now. So where I'm recording this, we have a one bed, one bath, but it's detached from the rest of the property. So we live in like it's like probably 750 square feet, one bed, one bath, me and my wife Lauren. Next to us is a four bed, two bath apartment and 600 square feet of office space that we rent both of those out. So our housing cost every month is like plus $800. Like we make $800 every month from housing, which is cool.
That's
Um,
nice.
in terms of the rest of the portfolio, we have 13 long-term rentals. We have one Airbnb that we own, two that we co-manage, and we are currently in doing flip number three of the past 12 months. So recently, with the rise in interest rates, I've haven't bought any long-term rentals since like mid 2022 or Airbnbs since mid 2022, and have just been kind of primarily focusing on flips over the past like 12 months. So that's kind of where I'm at in the real estate journey. Kind of the same thing as before though. Like I'm always like just testing and seeing. I had never done a flip until end of last year. We bought a property. It was like a kind of a weird situation where it was a possible encroachment, but ended up getting a steal on it. Ended up fixing it up. We actually made 113,000 profit on that first flip, and so we're
Wow.
like, okay, let's do this again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
flip number
Anytime you can
two.
make 113 grand, you're like, "Can I do that again, please?"
Exactly. As more than my corporate job. I'm like, this is insane. Like we did this in 3 months.
Right.
So but I'm just a dabbler. Like if it didn't work, it didn't work. If I lost money, if I broke even, I probably wouldn't try it again, or I'd come back to the drawing board and figure out a new strategy. But as we continue to talk, I'm sure that's a theme of mine is like I just keep trying stuff until something works. Like I'm not afraid to like kick something to the curb if it's not working. And I don't take it personally. I don't think like, oh man, I suck. It's like, okay, like it's either me or the thing that I'm trying. Like there's something, so some part of this recipe isn't right. So let's just, let's put it down and try the next thing.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I love that attitude of like, "Well, let's just try. Just try. Just
You never
keep
know.
trying. Just keep trying." So I do wanna just so your current living situation, it sounds like you sorta live in a, what would be called like a secondary or auxiliary dwelling unit on your primary property?
Basically, yeah. I think at one point this was probably like a barn that was then converted to a living area. I mean, it's nice though. Like it's not like we're living in squalor. Like this, it's a nice place. It's small. It's like 750 square feet, but it's myself, my wife Lauren, and our cat. It's plenty of
Right.
room for us at this stage in our life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're like, let's get it while the getting's good. Like if we're getting paid to live here, it's a steal.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I loved your explanation of that, of, like, being a weird scenario house hack where you actually kinda have your own well, you do have your own place, but it's on the same property of another building that you are renting out, so
Yeah, it's just like 50 feet away. It's like just enough space. We don't have a shared wall. We can't hear them, so it's kind of nice.
nice. Nice, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, but then you said you had 13 more rental properties on top of that?
Units, not properties.
Oh,
So
units,
some of
sorry.
them, yeah, 13 rental units, 13 doors. So we have like a triplex. We actually sold another triplex last year. Then we get a couple other duplexes, sorry, two triplexes, a couple duplexes, and two single families.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, not 13 properties, 13 units. So right now, like I said, with rates at where they're at, like I'm just getting much higher ROI on the flips, and then like spending all of my time like on the digital stuff. But once rates come down, or if I see an attractive deal, like I'm not one to shy away. Like I said, I'll try anything. Like
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
works out, it works out. If not, it doesn't.
Cool, so I'm kinda curious then, like, what are you mentioned, rates, interest rates, obviously, and as we know, they've been going up in both Canada and the US. Everyone knows I'm in Canada. And so I'm kinda guessing, Boston, Massachusetts, that area, it's a very large, city, major metropolitan area. And I'm just kinda I don't I know 0 about their Boston real estate market, but I'm just guessing here that real estate has to be kind of expensive in that area.
Oh yeah, it's extremely expensive. So I'm like an hour outside of Boston. I'm in central Massachusetts. So real estate's a little more affordable here. Like the numbers on our very first deal that we bought, this is back in 2020. It was a three family, and we bought it for 235,000. So like you're not getting that in Boston, not even
Right.
close.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But we were about like an hour 15 outside of Boston with that first property. And for your real estate investors out there, like we looked and was like made sure it was over the 1% rule. It's actually a really good cash flowing property. Total rent is 3,700 now. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, that was the first one. The one we're living in now, we bought this one for 315, and again, it's the weird detached house with the 4 bed, 2 bath, and the office space. So yeah, it's much more affordable than Boston. I mean, in Boston, you're getting a triplex for like 600K in a bad area. So
Yeah.
little different numbers.
I do want to talk about the renovations and the flipping, but just for comparison, I'm about 2 hours east of Toronto, and my house I live on a I have a it's technically called a 4 bedroom house. There's 2 rooms upstairs that are basically just empty rooms. Um, 4 bedroom, 1 bath on about a half an acre. It When I bought it a few years ago, it was 409,000 Canadian. And, just for comparison, the same house in Toronto would easily be somewhere
Like
around
2
1
million.
million to, yeah,
Yeah.
1.5 million, maybe even 2 million. Who knows, right? Like,
It's
it's just
crazy.
so those, yeah, those big city markets are absolutely insane. But I do want to get back to you mentioned about flipping houses, and obviously that's a lot of work because you're buying. That's the exact opposite of passive income because you're buying a house that's probably deteriorated or needs some, if not a lot, of TLC, tender loving care. And yeah, let's just maybe talk through some of your renovations, or maybe one more successful one, or anything you want to talk about and again, this kind of goes back to a personal interest because I've done a lot of renovations. In a past life, I've been a carpenter, and it's tough, man. It's tough to make an old house look brand new again.
So I think I can tie a bigger theme to this, but I I haven't even swung a hammer at any of our flips. Like I don't do anything. How it works, but the
So
bigger
you
theme that
do make it passive income.
I do exactly, yeah. So basically, like all of my businesses. So I probably run like I've kind of pared it down the past couple of years, but I have like 4 or 5 businesses now. All of them have partners. I don't own any of these as like a sole proprietor. I try to find strategic partnerships where like I can bring certain attributes, I can bring certain skill sets, certain assets to the table, and I can find someone else who like kind of can fill in those skill gaps for me. So like the flipping company that we have is called Expert Renovations. I actually partnered with a friend from high school who's like a licensed contractor, and so he does all the work. We buy the house, like we do all of the financing. We split subcontractors, and so it's kind of a win-win for both of us. Like he doesn't want to have to deal with the headache of finding like we use a private money lender and then like we have a HELOC to like fund the renovations and just doing all the back end accounting stuff and making sure all that stuff's good. Like he doesn't like doing that. He likes building stuff.
Right.
So for him, it's a win because he just goes and works and shows up and then he gets, when the deal's done, he gets a check for, half of whatever the profit is after we kind of again using the calculations I just mentioned before. So it's a huge win-win. I'm not doing any of the actual labor for the rehab, but again, I'm buying the property. I'm putting up all of the hard money. So that, like I definitely have my neck on the line a little bit, just in a different way. I'm not sweating. I'm just on the money for on the line for a lot of money. But that's the way I've been able to operate a bunch of different successful businesses. Is that like I find a partner who needs my help in some capacity. Like I have some skill or some asset that they don't have, and then like they have some skill or some asset that I don't have. Um, Even my first business ever, like it was a disc golf manufacturing company. I don't know if you've ever played disc golf before. But I was like finance and marketing. My friend Jim was an engineer. And so it was like perfect. Like he doesn't want to do any of the finance and marketing stuff. I don't know how to engineer. I don't know how to build CAD files or anything like that. So it was like,
Right.
let's work together. And that's like honestly how all of my partnerships have kind of worked out. It's been really helpful. And just having some extra people on your team, it's always nice to just have like a second pair of eyes and ears and a brain to remember stuff that you might forget if you're just running it as a solo operator.
I love what you just said there, like finding win-win situations so that you benefit and whoever you're teaming up with, they also benefit. And I think that's extremely important in whatever you do in life, right? Is finding something that benefits both you and the people that your team, well, like I just said, teaming up with you have to create these win-win situations.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, they're trying to find people that they can, like, quote unquote take advantage of, or like they get the better end of the deal." But like the partnerships that are going to last and the partnerships that are going to work are ones where people on both ends are like extremely happy with how
Right.
it's set up. So if you can find like that match made in heaven, that perfect partnership, and you both have like complementary skill sets, that's where you're going to really, really succeed. And the business is just going to run so much smoother and be so much easier to operate.
Yeah, for sure. I want to switch gears here for a second. We did mention it there several minutes ago. You mentioned investing in the stock market and S&P 500. I think you mentioned index funds.
I did.
And so let's dive into that and how, how did your portfolio start to unfold? Obviously, you started making money with Etsy, and then some more money with real estate, and now you're looking, probably, I'm guessing, started to look, well, where am I going to make this money work for me? Right? Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
how it
So
happened?
That's kind of what happened. Yeah. I mean, I started investing in the stock market first. So I've been investing since I was like 18, maxing out my Roth IRA. I know it's slightly different in Canada, but
Yep.
for me, been maxing out my Roth IRA since I was 18. That's kind of when I like fell in love with personal finance and entrepreneurship. Like I read Tim Ferriss around then. That's kind of when it just all happened, which I was really fortunate to get all that education so early. So yeah, I was investing a bunch in the stock market, and then I'm trying to think how much I had invested by the time I started investing in real estate, like maybe 100K or close to that or something like that. But since then, it's just been like a pretty healthy mix. I think I actually tweeted, let's see if I can find it live while we're chatting. I found a breakdown, or I posted a breakdown of my net worth, and I think it was like 45% real estate, like I think it was 43% stocks or something like that. And so it's a pretty even split. I'm not just like
Yeah.
a completely real estate guy or completely index fund only guy. I got a pretty healthy split there, and then the rest, I've been doing some like angel investing. I invested in like a couple startups. Syndications has been another one where I've been investing, just because like I still have a pretty large gap between my income and my expenses, and like sometimes I just don't have the bandwidth to try to find another deal to deploy capital. So I'm like, okay, let's just go with an operator who's been doing this for a couple decades, and I can just throw my money into a syndication and make money that way. So that's kind of what I've been doing on the investing front. I have like 2%, no, not even less than 2% of my net worth in crypto. Just a little side bet, just in
Yeah,
case. You
just
never
for
know. You
fun,
never know.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, not that I'm banking on it. I'm not one of the laser-eyed crypto bros on Twitter, but I'm like, who know, maybe, but maybe Bitcoin will go to the moon, as all the bulls are saying.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you definitely wanna have a little bit of Bitcoin just in case that happens, and you can turn your $30 into 3,000 or whatever the case may be, right?
Exactly. I just found the tweet. So current net worth breakdown, it was 45% real estate, 40% stocks, 10% cash, 3% angel investments, and 2% crypto. Yeah. The
Yeah,
top the
interesting.
top replied comment was 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will.
Nice.
Shout
That's
out to
actually a
Fort
pretty
Minor.
good reply.
That is a good reply. But yeah, so that's kind of my investment breakdown. Been I don't like to have all my eggs in one basket, so that's kind of why I like to have my money spread around in different asset classes.
And so let's dive into that a little more, with the S&P 500 index funds. Anything in individual stocks, or again, that diversification idea of keeping yourself.
I'm not gonna lie, I keep it so simple. Like, I only hold two like mutual fund index funds in my accounts. I have like a total stock market index fund, and I have like a little bit in like a total bond market index fund. It is as simple as that for me. I used to like be into day trading. I went to college for finance and economics, so I would like be reading 10Ks and like listening to earnings calls, and like I was super into day trading. I would like try to trade like based on, I'm like, oh, okay, like they're gonna kill their earnings call. I'm gonna put a bunch of money in here, and it was just like I made some money. I had some really good wins, but I had some big losses too. And it was like at the end of the day, I'm spending 20 plus hours per week diving into these companies, whereas I could probably probably make way more money, definitely make way more money focusing those 20 plus hours into like a business or a side hustle, rather than trying to like eke out an extra couple percentage points, especially when my net worth was so low at the time. It's like
Right.
I'm playing with like $10,000. Like, okay, I make 15% this year and the index made 12. Like, Was it really worth the hundreds of hours that I poured into researching these individual stocks? Now, I'm not going to say like individual stock investing is like the worst thing ever and everyone should index, but like 98% of people should probably stick with index funds. If you want to be like a hardcore investor and you do want to spend all the hours that I was spending before and you have a pretty sizable net worth, then yeah, maybe eking out a couple extra percentage points by choosing individual stocks versus index funds, that might be worth it if you have like a $5 million net worth. Sure.
Right.
But for me, it just like it didn't make sense. So I was just like, I'm just going to index and chill. I'm going to focus all of my time and attention and money and resources on building businesses. And then, the increase in my income is going to vastly outperform the tiny increase in my investment gains if I've like become a really good stock picker.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. Like you're putting all these hours into trying to day trade and like you just said, so many hours that you could make so much more somewhere else. Um Now with that said too, there's other you can invest in individual stocks without day trading. You can have that long-term
That's very
hold
true.
strategy as
that
well. So,
that just wasn't my story. I was a day trader for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah,
wow. A lot of amazing stories here within your relatively young lifespan. I think you said you're only 27, so
27, man. Learning every day.
amazing. Absolutely, truly amazing what you've done in such a short time. And yeah, there's I do want to bring this up too quickly. It's your grab the free passive income guide. The link will be in the description below. And I guess yeah, just go ahead and give yourself a plug here for CodyDBerman.com.
Yeah, yeah. People can grab that passive income guide. It's basically a 20-page ebook. It's super nicely laid out. I was actually pretty proud of how it came out. And yeah, just punch your info into there. I'll send you the free ebook. If you're specifically interested, I see you have the links down here. Like I have my own podcast. If you're listening to a podcast, you probably enjoy listening to other podcasts about
Yep.
money and passive income.
Right there. Listen to the
Also,
Financial Independence Show,
yeah, check
which I
that out.
haven't been a guest on yet. What's up with that?
Hey, we just became friends, Dave.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
set it up.
that's right. Oh, that's right. Okay.
And then for folks who want to like sell on Etsy who are interested, just check out the bottom one actually. That's a course that I sell, but like I'm not going to be here, pawning off my course just yet. Definitely like just see if you're interested first. It's a free 60-minute workshop. And if you're like, cool, this sounds fun, then you can like get deeper and take the course or whatever you want to do. But yeah, if you're interested in like the Etsy stuff and selling digital products, check out that workshop on the screen here. And we'll basically just deep dive for like an hour. Not deep dive, but kind of like teach you the basics, like what's it going to take, like what does it take to be successful, what are the strategies I use, and my business partner Julie I mentioned earlier. So
Right.
yeah, man, that's pretty much it for me. And at Cody D Berman everywhere.
Yeah, I was just gonna actually show your X, the app formerly known as Twitter. Oh shit,
Yeah,
I just did something wrong and I didn't share it.
I don't
Look.
think I can call it like, what do you call it, posting now? I still say tweeting.
Oh, I
I don't know what
call
to
it.
say.
I kind of randomly call it both at any given
Xing.
moment. Yeah,
I don't
there it
know.
came up. Sorry, I closed. I hit the
Oh, it's no
wrong thing
worries.
there for a second. So,
But yeah,
um,
tweets are just like kind of random thoughts I have throughout the day. I do a lot of Instagram too. If people want to check that out, whatever. I'm pretty much on every platform. So whatever platform you're on, I'm probably on there at Cody D Berman.
Cody D. Berman. Cool, man. Um, I feel like we haven't. I feel like we've only scratched the surface here.
I got a lot of stuff, man. what
Okay.
do you want to start? What do you want to scratch more? I could deep dive on any of the things we talked about today.
Yeah, because seriously, those like it's an amazing story. Because again, you're only 27 years old. So in 2018, that's 6 years ago. You're 21. You're coming out of, I'm guessing, college, university, whatever, and and like you've already mentioned, you've had so many of those, graveyard ideas as we've called them.
Yeah,
And then something clicked, you meet this person, I think you said her name was Julie, that kinda showed you the path to, selling
digital
on
products.
Etsy,
Yep.
and it's just truly an amazing story, your perseverance to just keep going, to make something there, and then using that income to then get into real estate and well, you were already into the stock market, but then now you have more money to invest in the stock market. I did want to circle back though to I want to use the word frugal here because you just mentioned that like a few minutes ago, not too long ago, that your expenses are still low compared to your income. So let's maybe dive into that because there's a lot of things you see on X, the app formerly known as Twitter, about spending habits, about you know, you see the tweets all the time, the posts all the time. If you make 500 grand a year, but you're spending 495 grand a year, you don't have an income problem, you have a spending problem. Whereas that same, another person could be making 50 grand a year, but they're investing 25 grand a year. Well, at the end of 10 years, who's doing better? Well, the guy making 50 grand is 10 times further ahead than the guy making 500 grand. So you found that like great uh Goldilocks zone of making a lot of money but not spending very much.
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to keep my savings rate, and this is like post tax, but like over 80% since like I was 22. And so my spending, to be frank, has definitely increased like the past 2 years or so because my income has drastically increased.
Right.
But it's still like a pretty small percentage of my overall what I'm bringing in. So like I've been able to like again, kind of like Goldilocks zone. Like I've only started to like I wouldn't say lifestyle creep, but I guess in the last couple of years I've started to spend a lot more on like travel and like health and wellness and things like that. Like I'm still house hacking. I'm still like have the paid off car and stuff because having a new car wouldn't bring me that much more joy. Living in a huge house at this point wouldn't bring me that much more joy. But like now we're staying in like nice hotels, nice Airbnbs. We do travel like probably 3 months out of the year. Um, and we spend a lot on like making sure we have like really high quality food and stuff like that. So our
But
spending
again, that
has,
goes back to again a lot of the tweets or X posts you see on X of
yeah,
like spending for experience, spending for that
exactly,
experience of travel, spending for that experience of the nice dinner, that nicer Airbnb. It's you're spending on the experience, and I can guarantee you I'm nearly twice your age. You remember the experiences way more than you remember the stuff you buy.
for sure. Yeah. And actually, like we were really intentional, me and my wife, Lauren, like, because I've been like in the podcast world. Like I mentioned, I read the 4 Hour Work Week when I was like 19. So we like wrote down independently because just like this was even before we got married. But I was like, okay, what are like the top 10 things you value? And we both wrote it down on a piece of paper, and then we came together, and they were like eerily similar. And I don't think a single thing in that top 10 list had anything to do with money. It was
Right.
like, well, I mean, okay, you could argue traveling has to do with money, but it
You
wasn't
need
like
money to
a
travel,
material
but
thing. Exactly. It was
yeah,
like travel. It was like spending time together, friends and family. It was like all experiential stuff. And we're like, okay, this is the stuff that we should spend unapologetically on. It's not like the McMansion or the new car that we could afford, but it's like that's not going to bring us joy. And why add another, couple $1,000s per month in fixed expenses when we have all this flexibility? So yeah, been able to keep that savings rate up by spending intentionally.
okay, so again, you were very young when you got into, investing and wanting to earn passive income and create things on Etsy and whatnot. And somewhere in there, you met your wife, Lauren. Was it the first date you started talking about finances?
uh, I don't think so. I mean, she knew I was like into this stuff. But I mean, actually, honestly, we probably did talk about finances. I honestly don't remember. I'm like trying to think back. Like I can picture the first restaurant we ever went out together, and I was like 19, or yeah, I was 19. She was 17. We were super young, and it was like going out to a restaurant was like a lot of money in
Right,
proportion to our net income. So we didn't do it very often. Um, but you know what? It probably did come up. We probably talked about at least like side hustling, maybe not personal finance directly, but like I just remember at that time when I was 19, I was just like my mind was going a million miles an hour. I was like, I had all these business ideas, all these things I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be Tim Ferriss. And yeah, honestly, she's been on board the whole time, which is super cool. Like having a supportive partner or supportive spouse is so key. It helps so
right.
much. Like she's not trying to pressure me to like live a certain way or like wants to spend all this money on this, or she's, in the early days, she never said like, oh, you're working too much, even though I probably was. So yeah, it's been awesome having her as my wingman by my side.
That's amazing. That's a great story. And again, so young, like 19 and 17 years old, and being that mature to maybe not have like the 110 100% full on discussion of, the finance discussion that you definitely need to have as you become adults. But, even talking about money in any situation at that age on like a first or second date, it's like, I can guarantee you I was not doing that at that age.
A little bit of an oddball. Yeah, I'm like, oh, good thing I didn't scare her off. But it worked out, and honestly, like, the fact that I was able to get in this early, I don't know what age your listeners generally are, but, like, if you haven't experienced lifestyle creep yet, like, if you're still single or not even single, if you don't have kids, if you haven't got, like, the McMansion yet, like, live as frugally as possible for as long as you can while you're, like, building that gap in between your income and your
Right.
expenses, because it is so much easier to just, like, maintain the college kid lifestyle for as long as you can rather than, like, keeping up with the Joneses and then trying to scale it back. And that's where like a lot of people that I talk to, they're at that point where they already bought the expensive house, they already have 2 leased cars, and they have all these expenses and now they have to like claw that back. And it's so much easier if you can catch people before that point and, just
Yeah,
like
for
ride it
sure.
out, keep living how you were living the past couple years. Like nobody's balling out when they're like 19, 20, 21. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you should have seen my college house. It wasn't anything pretty. But I just kind of kept up those like same standards of living, except a little bit cleaner when me and my now wife Lauren moved in together. But
Yeah.
like the expenses were the same. We weren't balling out. We weren't spending a huge percentage of our incomes.
Yeah, the demographics, tend to be kinda what you would think. Males 25 to 34 is the number 1 demographic.
Oh,
35
perfect.
to 50 is kind of the
That's the
number
age
2.
I'm talking to.
Yeah, and the number 2 graphic. But surprisingly enough, uh, I do get some listeners in, like, the 13 to 19-year-olds, and then obviously the over 55-year-olds as well.
Even
And,
better.
yeah,
The
so
13 and 19. Yeah.
yeah, it's quite it has been quite the range of listeners. But, yeah, the probably, the majority in the demographics is that male 25 to 34, and then, secondary, the 35 to say 45 or 50.
Awesome.
Surprisingly enough, quite a few females listen to. I think that's because I've had so many, amazing, female guests on, so,
You said
um,
Lauren from Adulting is Easy. Yeah,
yeah,
she's
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, yeah.
She's one of many females that I've had on here, so I finally figured out a way to attract, females in my life, just have a computer screen between us.
Oh man. But yeah, that's my number one piece of advice for the younger listeners out there. Like keep those expenses down as your income starts to climb. Because if you can just get those beginning years right, like you can coast for the rest of your career. You
Right.
could literally like I actually had a tweet go like semi-viral the other day because before when you hear numbers like $10 million, $100 million, they just seem so crazy and so far-fetched. But like I mathed out the numbers as a compound interest nerd would. And
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, like if you can accumulate $1 million invested by 35, to some of your listeners, that might sound like an insane amount of money. To some, they might be like, oh, I'm already there. You don't have to contribute another dollar. And if you're using 8% like historical returns over the past 100 years, you just let that $1 million sit in an index fund in the stock market, you'll have $10 million at retirement age by 65.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I saw that tweet the other day, actually, yeah.
if you
Definitely
can
saw that
get
one.
those beginning years right, like you can literally just you could live paycheck to paycheck from 35 to 65. You could spend all of your money, but as long as you get those beginning years right, like you're gonna be a decamillionaire at retirement age.
Right.
It's so important to get the beginning right because then you have compound interest on your side. And if you have time on your side when you're investing, like it just kind of takes care of the
Yeah.
rest. I forget the exact stat, but it's like Warren Buffett accumulated like 99% of his wealth after his 50th birthday
Yep.
because now all his money just has so much time to compound. And every 10 years it's doubling and doubling and doubling. And now that's why he has like whatever 100 billion or more now.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, you kinda answered, the last question of the show, which is, what advice would you give to, anyone, young people or
I
anyone
got some
else?
more advice.
Okay. Go for it. Let's keep going.
I think one thing that people don't spend enough on or don't focus enough on is like investing in themselves. Like so many people will focus on cutting out a $5 latte or they'll focus on like starting some non-skill side hustle. And I don't want people to think like, oh, you shouldn't like drive for Uber, or you shouldn't do Instacart. Like those are great if you need extra cash and you're just like you're hustling, you're grinding. I've been there. But I don't
Yeah.
think people focus enough on getting high income skills. And like it's not like you have to get lucky or you have to be in a certain career field. Like you can literally, take free courses, you can do paid courses, you can follow people on Twitter, on Instagram that will start to kind of teach you these more high impact, high leverage skills.
You
And
can
like
learn
that.
everything at YouTube University, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I don't think people spend enough time, or because you can kind of accelerate if you want to like pay for courses and stuff. Like I'm at a point now where like if I want to learn something new, like if I want to learn Google Ads, like I will gladly pay a couple $100 for like the best Google Ads course rather than trying to DIY it because it will just save me so much time and headache.
Right.
Um, but I think not enough people kind of focus on that like self bettering. Like skills are the one thing that you can build up that like nobody can take away from you. Like your passive income streams could go like if Etsy shut down, I'd lose those passive income streams. Who knows? The government repossesses my houses, I lose those passive income streams. Nobody's
Yeah.
taking away the skills that I gained. So even if I lost it all tomorrow, like I still have the skills to build back up and probably in a fraction of the time it took me. So
Well, exactly.
focus,
Like,
yeah.
I I just thought, and I know Etsy and Shopify are very different, but I'm sure you could apply one to the other, right? Everything you've
Oh, for
learned on
sure.
Etsy, you could go over to Shopify and
I
in
do
a
sell on
heartbeat.
Shopify too.
Yeah, I was gonna say in a heartbeat, you would be, in a heartbeat, you'd be right back making money if Etsy all of a sudden one day closed its doors and there was no more in, income from that passive income source.
Yeah. So I can't undersell the power of having skills and like strategically acquiring skills, not just like, oh, I got this random project at work and like now I know how to use Excel better. Like, no, be like intentional, like figure out something that you want to learn. It could be like marketing or sales, or it could be product creation. Like, there's so many skills. And like, once you start to stack those skills, and again, I'm sitting on top of a mountain of failures. And it's just because I
Yeah,
have gained all these skills. Like, that first disc golf business actually ended up shutting it down last year because it just, it was kind of amount of time that I would have to spend to make it like as profitable as the other stuff, it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. But like that first business that I started in 2016 like taught me so much about marketing, sales, networking, negotiating, like writing contracts, like so many skills that again, the business isn't even running today, but like now I have those skills that nobody can take away. And I was that
right.
much more prepared with my next business. So go acquire those skills. Like, skills are a thing that you can gain and you can stack it. There's not just like random things that happen. Like, you can get better at anything with practice. So go
Yeah,
and do
for
it.
sure. Yeah, and that's not even financial advice. That's just great life
Life
advice.
advice. Yeah,
Just get skills, right? Like, and it can be sort of in any field, and those skills can lead to side hustles or whatever else, and help you with income. And those side hustles, like you said, Uber Eats or whatever. Obviously, that's not a huge skill to drive around, but um, those different side hustles and skills can lead to more income, whether they're passive or not. Like, yeah, you definitely do have to hustle to make money in the beginning.
for
But
sure.
I absolutely love what you've done. You put all that work in at the beginning, and now you're reaping the rewards of it later on.
And it's like kind of the micro. I was just talking about like the macro with like get $1 million invested by 35, but it's like with anything with passive income. That's why I like the shirt, the passive income posse. But it's like anything. Like, you put in the work at the beginning and then you just coast and you reap the benefits of that reward for like decades to come. Whether it's investing or building passive income streams or real estate investing, like, yes, it's a slog. Yes, it sucks at the beginning. Yes, you might be working late some days and working more than you might want to, but like 5 years from now, you have all these passive income streams
Yeah,
coming in, or like you have these investments that are your money is making you money because of the sacrifices that you made a couple years ago. So
yeah.
yeah.
The light at the end of the tunnel is not a train; it's actually a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, I like that.
Awesome. Wow. Amazing conversation. I truly appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on and spending some of your time with me here on the Passive Income Podcast. I do feel like we could keep talking forever, but before we sign off, anything you would like to say in closing?
No, I just hope this was helpful for some listeners. Hopefully, it's inspiring someone to go and learn that skill that you've been dilly dallying. You know who you are. You're listening to this. You're like, oh man, I've been. It could be as simple as playing the guitar. Like, just start practicing. Just start
Yeah,
practicing because you will get better. Well, you will get better by putting in reps. So
yeah,
go put
definitely.
in some reps.
I just want to give a shout out to buyinvestingshirts.com, help support the Passive Income Podcast. And oh, this is actually the Buy Me a Coffee link that I'm reading in the description below. Sorry about that. This one, I'm sure you've been checking out the ticker symbols, Passive Income Posse t shirts, hoodies, toques, ball caps, coffee mugs available at buyinvestingshirts.com. Use code word Posse for 5% discount, link in the description. And of course, if you would like to help support the Passive Income Podcast, please buy me a coffee. And that link is also in the description. Of course, Cody's links will be in the description below as well. And with that said, if you're still here listening nearly 50 minutes later, please, please, please hit that subscribe.